Servlet Introduction to Filter API. So starts from how filters are applied in Servlet programming. So small introduction on filters. Filters that are components that you can use and configure to perform some filtering task. So before entering into Servlet program, the filter programs are executed to verify whether the particular task can completed or not. After completing the task, you are entering into Servlet program. So filter is used for pre-processing of request and post-processing of responses. So you can have any number of filters for pre-processing of a request and post-processing of a response. So this is a small pictorial representation. So client can send a request. So request which will be sent to a web container. So the web container which comprising of multiple filters and multiple servlet program. So initially a filter can receive a request from a client. Then after completing, if the request was success, then which entering into another set of filters. After successful completion of all the filters, then only it entering into servlet programming. So similar way, after that we send a response to the client. So this is a basic servlet programming. So a web container which comprising of multiple filters which can handle a pre-processing of request as well as post-processing of response. Now, so how filters works? When a request reaches a web container, it checks if any filters has URL pattern that matches with the requested URL. So web container locates the first filter with matched URL pattern and filter code is executed. After completing the filter code, which entering into next filter and the next filter, at the last which entering into servlet program. So similar way, the post matching of response to. So this is a basic working procedure of filters. So what is filter chain? So filter chain which is the interface. So this object is used to invoke the next filter in the chain. So normally filter 1 which call filter 2. If filter 2 also success, which call servlet program. So that process which executed via the interface which will be named as filter chain. So small example. So this is a simple web.xml file. So we starts from web app, ends with /web app. Inside that there are new tags which will be called as filter. Then inside that filter name, you can give a name of the filter as my filter. Then filter class, then name of the filter class. You are writing a separate class for filter. So that class which will be named as my filter. Then similar way filter mapping, name of the filter. Then after completing the filter, you can verify, you can entering into the particular servlet or mapped with all set of URL. So whether the filter was success, then you can entering into all URL. So in that stage, you can give URL pattern. Otherwise, whether the filter was success, then you can entering into a particular servlet. Then give that servlet name. So this is a basic web.xml file. Basic web.xml file. So these things are mandatory. So now this is a small example. So the example which will be named as a login form. The form which comprising of username as well as password. The file which will be named as index.html. So once the user click that submit button, then which entering into a filter. The filter is a class which will be named as my filter. So inside my filter, just I am writing a small program. The program which checks whether the password equal to 1234 or not. If the password equal to 1234, then only which will be moved into first.java. Otherwise, which won't move to first.java. So this is the basic procedure. So now we are entering into example program. So initially we will create a index.html. So form method equal to post, action equal to first. So if you are submitting, which moved into a servlet name first. Then input type equal to text, then name equal to user. So which receives a username. Then input type equal to text, name equal to password. So which receives a password. Then input type equal to submit. So submit to first start servlet. Now the second stage, we are entering into web.xml. So web.xml, inside that filter, name of the filter as my filter, filter class as my filter, filter mapping. So filter name as my filter. If the filter was success, then we will move into first servlet. So mapping was ready. Then servlet mapping. So servlet name was first, servlet class was first. Similar way, mapping name was first, then the URL pattern was first. Similar way, the welcome file initially I will open index.html file. So now we will move into the next one, that is first.servlet filter file, myfilter.java. So public class myfilter, which implements a class filter. So inside that do filter of, which comprising of 3 parameter, one which will be called as servlet request, another one which will be called as servlet response, next one which will be called as filter chain. So throws IO exception as well as servlet exception. Inside that print writer out equal to response.get writer of, string password equal to request.get parameter of pass. So which receives a password from index.html page. If password.equals 1234, chain.do filter of request and response. So which can call the servlet file. Else which will print out.println, you have entered a wrong filter password. Then request dispatcher rs equal to request.get dispatcher of index.html. So rs.include request comma response. So if the password file filter automatically returning into HTML file, if password success, the chain was success, so it will move into the next servlet program. So my servlet program, this is my servlet program, first.java. So similar way, public class first extends HTTP servlet, protected do post of, inside that print writer out equal response.get writer of, string user request.get user of, out.println welcome plus user. So which print the user. So filter is a separate program which choose to execute first before entering into servlet. Sometimes you will think about that. If you are creating a project, after login, your user ID or otherwise login status was saved in a session, variable. So whenever required, if the session was success, then only it will be entering into servlet stage. Without login, you won't entering into other pages. That's a stage a filter works fine. So similar with several kind of stages for filter application. So this is a small example for filter programming. File, new, dynamic web project, then choose a project which will be named as filter first. So we'll create a new project for first filter. So something called a filter first. Then next, then generate web.xml file, then finish. So which will create a project which will be named as filter first. So inside that, I will open web app, then create a new file, new HTML page, which will be named as index.html. So I will create a new HTML file, the file which will be named as index.html. Then next and then finish. So a new index.html file which will open. So name of the file was something called as login. So new file was ready. So inside that I will create a form, then action equal to something called as first, so which will be moved into first servlet. Then method equal to something called as post, so I will create a post method. Then a form was ready. Inside that I will create a username, so user name, then input type equal to text, name equal to uname, input type equal to text and name equal to uname. So I will create a text box, then password. So similar way, input type equal to password and name equal to pwd. Then now everything was ready. So I will type input type equal to submit to create a submit button. So now my HTML page was ready. So I will something called as execute the project. So right click on my project and then run on server. So save and then execute. Yes, I will choose my Tomcat server, then next, then finish. Now a simple HTML page which was executed and which display a simple login page which will ask username and password. Then so name equal. It's a post method. So now file was executed in a Tomcat server, then which display localhost :8080/index.html. So username and password and a submit query. So now form was ready. Now I will create a simple filter class. So right click, new, then something called as class. So name of the filter as my filter. Then I will click finish. So it will open a class my filter. So here I will extends filter class. My filter extends filter. So inside that I will start do filter. Do post of. So here filter is a interface, so not extends. So here implements filter. So that's the error. Implements filter. So inside that we will call the method which will be called as remove everything and then type implements filter. Now press Ctrl space, then choose Servlet. So filter was ready. Then here you will add do filter. Do filter is a method which comprising of do filter of servlet request, servlet response as well as filter chain. Now inside that I will receive the response from the file. So something called as request string string uname or password. I need password is enough. So string password which is equal to string of something request dot get parameter so the servlet request argument arg0. So arg0 dot get parameter of, you will get the value from pwd. So which read the value if pwd dot equals of 1 2 3 4. If it's true, then which will perform do then you will perform something called as object for filter chain is arg2. So arg2 dot arg2 is a filter chain interface dot do filter of argument 0 as well as argument 2, that is request and response was passed. Else just you will print. So you will create a print writer out equal to response in the sense arg1. dot get writer of, then something out dot print ln login in value. If needed, you will add request start dispatcher, then move into login. Now it's not required. Now I will save the file my filter. Now I will create another class, new class, for just named as first. So first class, finish. Then similar way extends HTTP servlet. Then inside that I will add two post of. So everything was same. So I will add a method called as do post of. Inside do post of, method. Inside that you will get something called as string username equal to request dot get parameter req dot get parameter of uname. Then something print writer out equal response dot get writer of. Then out dot print ln welcome plus uname. So control space to import a package. Now which will add the file. Now everything was over. Now open web.xml file and add the class something called as filter. So filter, then inside that we will add filter hyphen name, filter hyphen name. Here name of the filter as my filter. Then inside that we will add filter hyphen class. So name of the class as my filter. Then similar way we will add filter hyphen mapping. Then after adding filter mapping, we will add filter hyphen name, the name of the filter as my filter. Then servlet name hyphen name. So you will add a first servlet, FIRST. Then now after completing this, we will add servlet. So servlet, so then servlet name, servlet hyphen name, the name of the servlet as FIRST, then servlet class servlet hyphen class, that is named as same first. Then now similar way we will add servlet mapping servlet hyphen mapping. Then you will add servlet name servlet hyphen name, so that will be called as first. Then you will add something called as URL hyphen pattarn, that will be called as /FIRST. Now save everything, entire thing was completed. Now you will execute the file, right click on your project, that is filter first, then run on server, save. So entire thing was executed. So I will create a filter before entering into servlet program. Initially filters can execute it. So anyway you can perform some pre-processing on request and post-processing of response. In that stage you will go for filters. So pre-processing for request. Before entering into a programming, You can perform some pre-processing for session validation, whether the user is login or not, something you can do that. So now I will enter something, username as Kesav, then password as 1234. I will click on submit query. Then welcome Kesav. Yes, good. It executed fine. Now I will enter a wrong password, something called as admin. Then I will submit. Then login invalid. So this filter program which works fine. So this is the basic procedure for creating a filter. So with the help of that, pre-processing your request as well as post-processing your response. So this is the basic overview of filter programming.